Good evening. So tonight the topic is relationship between Buddhist laity and Sangha, the Vinaya perspective. The fact that you all chose this topic, I guess you all have a lot of questions in mind. So tonight when I give this talk, I'm most probably not going to address all your questions. And so you need to ask questions after my talk. So the first thing, when we talk about the laity and the Sangha, we have to understand the role, the duties of each. As far as the Sangha is concerned, the primary duty is to practice the holy life. And this practice of the holy life is concerned with liberation, final goal of the holy life. So for this, a monk has to study the Sutta, Vinaya, and meditate. And the secondary duty of the Sangha is to teach the Dhamma Vinaya, the teachings of the Buddha. In the original suttas, the teachings of the Buddha is called the Dhamma Vinaya. Now, this is actually a secondary duty. We find that of the Buddhas, of all the Buddhas, 99.99% of Buddhas are Pacceka Buddhas. They don't teach. Very few Buddhas are Sammasambuddhas. But even though they don't teach, they occupy a place below the Sammasambuddha and higher than the Arahant disciple. So it shows that teaching is not the primary duty. Now, to practice the holy life, as I mentioned just now, the monk has to study the suttas, the Vinaya, and put it into practice, and to meditate, etc. Now, to do all this, the monk should stay in a secluded place, what the Buddha calls an aranya, forest or secluded place. Otherwise, it's almost impossible for the monk to actually practice the holy life. That's why in one sutta, in the Majjhima Nikaya, called the Nagara Vindeya Sutta, Buddha asked the lay people, do you know what type of monk is worthy of respect? What type of monk is not worthy of respect? So they didn't know how to answer the Buddha. Then the Buddha said, a monk who stays in a secluded place, forest or cave or something like that, the Buddha said, such a monk is worthy of respect. Such a monk can be said to have finished his work, become Arahant, or is striving to attain Arahanthood. And why are they worthy of respect? Why is a monk worthy of respect if he stays in a secluded place? Because the Buddha says, there are no forms for him to enjoy, no sights, no sounds to enjoy, no smells, taste and touch to enjoy. Whereas if a monk stays in a city, in a town, he has all these distractions. He can watch TV, and he can listen to music, and enjoy good food, etc. So the Buddha actually encouraged monks to stay in forest areas. That's why during the Buddha's time, almost all the monasteries were out of town, what we call forest monasteries. Now, what is the role of the laity? The role of the laity is to practice the Dhamma and support the Sangha. To practice the Dhamma, the layperson has to learn the Dhamma first. And either he nowadays can learn the Dhamma from books, but during the Buddha's time, he has to learn the Dhamma from monks and nuns. And the other important duty is to support the Sangha, because the Sangha needs all the support from the lay people. Now, later I'll go into these two in more detail. The Buddha said that there are 4 types of persons whom lay people should be very careful in their dealings with, because there are 4 fields of merit and also 4 fields of demerit. If you behave well towards these 4 types of persons, you can obtain a lot of merit or blessings. On the other hand, if you behave wrongly towards these 4 classes of persons, you can create a lot of demerit. The first one is the Buddha. But since the Buddha has passed into Parinibbana, so you cannot interact with the Buddha. The second one is monks and nuns. The third is your mother. The fourth is your father. That's why in Buddhism, filial piety towards our parents is very important. So also is respect for monks and nuns. So a lot of people sometimes tend to look at the monk's faults. But you must remember that a monk is not yet an arahant, so he is bound to have faults, just like lay people. So different monks have different characters. Even during the Buddha's time, do you know that the arahants also are very different? For example, Mahakassapa is an arahant with very great psychic power. But his character is such that people don't like to come near him because he's very, he talks very straight. Sometimes he poke you with his words, talk very sarcastic. But people like to go near Ananda because he is very gentlemanly, speaks kind words and pleases a lot of ladies also. So even arahants, you find that their characters are different. In fact, sometimes people like to put the Buddha on such a high pedestal, so high, and then they say that the Buddha has become so perfect that he does not have like human flaws, human characteristics. But it's not true. You look into the sutta, the Buddha also has his ways, his behavior. Like for example, sometimes when he speaks Dhamma also, he cracks a joke. And then on the other hand, sometimes when he scolds, he also can be very heavy. Like when he criticizes the Brahmins, he likens the Brahmins to dogs. He says Brahmins are worse than dogs. So each one of us have our own character. So you have to understand. So what is important is not exactly the words, it's the heart that is important. At times a person can be very blunt, but his heart is in the right place. That's a good heart. So that is the most important. But if you only like to listen to sweet words, some people can speak very sweet words, but their heart is not good. So that type of person you should avoid. Now, in the dealings of lay people with monks, so they have to be respectful and also supportive. And this support, usually people always think in terms of material support, but moral support also is very important. Because some monks, they find after many years of monkhood, they disrobe. And they disrobe sometimes because they are very hurt by certain lay people. Lay people, sometimes lay people, in the beginning they can be very supportive of the monk, put the monk very high. Later when they come associate closely with the monk, they start to find the monk's faults and all that, and then they reject the monk and make it very obvious to them, so they become so disappointed that they disrobe. Several years ago, I know of one monk. He had very close supporters, and they won't support any other monk except him. But later, when they went overseas, went to India, and then after they came back, they maybe magnify his faults, and then refused to support him. So he became so disheartened. After 16 years of monkhood, he disrobed. I probably was thinking, now I'm 30-something. I'm treated like that. After say I'm 50-something now, and then they treat me like that, and then very difficult. So he might as well disrobe and carry his own makan. So moral support is very important. Kindness also very important. So as far as material support is concerned, lay people, the Buddha said that it's a duty of lay persons to offer the four requisites that are necessities for a monk. First is food and robes and a place to stay and medical care. These are the four basic requirements. So you can offer these things, but you are not allowed to offer money to a monk, because a monk is not allowed to possess money. It's not so much that the monk cannot touch money, it's that the monk cannot possess money. Because in the Vinaya rules, sometimes a monk has to touch money. For example, if in a monastery somebody came to do dana and then left the purse behind and went home, then the monk in the precepts is required to take the purse and keep it in a safe place to return it to the owner later. Or if he goes to a lay person's house for dana, and then in the middle of the dana, the lay person has to go away. And then this monk finds a purse or a gold ring or something left in the house, which may be stolen. Then he also has to take it and put it aside for safekeeping. So it's not that a monk cannot touch money or valuables, it's that he cannot possess. And the Buddha says the reason a monk cannot possess money is if a monk does possess money, then he can use the money in whatever way he likes, so that he can enjoy whatever things he likes. And if a monk enjoys the worldly things, then he is not of the nature of a monk, the Buddha says. A monk is a renunciate. He is supposed to let go of all the pleasures in the world. So, unfortunately nowadays, because some monks, especially we Chinese monks, Chinese always very money-minded. So Chinese monks tend to won't have money. Sometimes I even drive Mercedes Benz. So this is very bad for this religion. Gives Sasana a very bad name. So don't give money to monks. A monk cannot possess money, a monk cannot possess property. Although a monastery is called Sangha property, but it is not the property of a single monk. Sangha property means it belongs to the Sangha of the four directions from now until eternity. So not a single, it's not that a single monk, it's a Sangha as a whole forever. Now, also lay people to support the monks, if possible. It is good if they come often to the monastery to help upkeep the monastery. During the Buddha's time, there were some lay people who were very devoted, so that some of them used to come every day. And there was one lady, Supia. She used to come and see whether the monks needed anything, whether any monk was sick and all that. So there was a time when she came and she found that a certain monk was sick. So she also knew that when a monk is sick, that a monk is allowed to take meat soup, clear meat soup, even at night. So she talked to that monk and asked, how she could help the monk. So the monk said, okay, good night, you can take me some clear meat soup. So she said, okay. So she went back and asked the servant or slave to go to the market to buy some meat so that she could cook soup for the monk. But it so happened that on certain days in India, nobody slaughters any animal. And during the Buddha's time, they don't have refrigerator right now. So if there's no slaughter of animals, then nobody has any meat to sell. So the servant came back and told Supia that can't buy any meat in the market. And she thought to herself, I have promised this monk already that I will provide this meat soup. And if I don't provide this clear meat soup, then I have broken my promise. And because she has such faith, must be probably a Sotapanna at least. She asked the servant to bring her a knife. And she asked the servant to accompany her to the room. She cut off a piece of her flesh, her whole flesh, and probably from the leg, and gave it to the servant and asked the servant to go and cook and bring the meat soup for the monk. So the servant did and brought the meat soup to the monk. Then in the evening when the husband came back, he saw that the wife didn't come to greet him as usual, and so looked around and found her in the bedroom and asked her what's wrong. And so she had to tell him what happened. But he also had great faith in the Sangha, so instead of getting angry, he was so happy with the wife. He said, wow, how to find a wife like this, sacrifice her own flesh for the monk. So the next day, on that evening, maybe the man went to invite the Buddha to his house for dana. So the next day the Buddha came and they cooked the food. Normally they cook the food first, and then when the food is ready, then they will go and invite the monk. So the Buddha came to the house, had his meal, and after the meal the Buddha asked Supia's husband, he said, where is Supia? Then the husband said, oh, she's not well, she's in the bedroom. Then the Buddha said, bring her out. And the husband said, she cannot walk. Then the Buddha said, never mind, you help her out. So the husband helped her to come out of the bedroom. And when the Buddha looked at Supia, the cut flesh healed completely so fast that even the hair grew back. So the husband and wife was very pleased with the Buddha, paid respect to the Buddha, and the Buddha gave a short talk. And then after that the Buddha went back to the monastery. So after that the Buddha made a rule that a monk should not eat certain meat. One of them is human flesh. There are 10 types of meat that a monk is not allowed to take. If a monk knows that the meat offered is one of the 10, he should not take. First one is human flesh. Second one is elephant. Then horse. Why these two? Possibly because the elephant and the horse usually belongs to the king. So if somebody stole the animal and cut it up to eat, the monk had a share, maybe he might get implicated in the crime. Then the others are wild animals like tiger, lion, leopard, bear, snake, or even dog. Why? Because sometimes during the Buddha's time, the monks, they lived in the forest. Then they come out on arms round, they go to the kampong, the village, and they go on arms round, they collect their food. So if some villager kill the tiger and cook the meat, so the monk happens to go on arms round, they will offer some of the food to the monk. So the monk, not knowing that it is tiger's meat, will take the food back to the forest and eat. And then after eating, you sit in meditation. But then he starts to sweat. When he starts to sweat, the smell of the tiger comes out from his sweat. So that happens, if another tiger is around, smell him, will attack him. So if he eats dog meat, if he walks on the street, the dog will chase and bark at him. So that's the reason why certain meat a monk should not eat. Other than that, ordinary chicken and ducks and pork and beef and all that is okay for a monk, provided there are 3 conditions. A monk can only eat meat with 3 conditions. These 3 conditions are that he does not see, he does not hear, and he does not suspect that the animal was purposely killed for him or specifically killed for him. Then he is allowed to eat. So just now I was saying, if a lay person has faith, like this Upia, he'll come to the monastery to help, to do any work, to do whatever is needed. So, for example, in the monk's precepts, a monk is not supposed to cut a tree or cut grass, and not supposed to dig a hole in the ground if the earth has got worms and all that. So, if lay people come to the monastery and then they can help do some of these things. Other things lay people can do is like help maintain the building, like paint the building. If there's on the roof broken or something, and the monk can repair. The thing is, not all monks are interested in this kind of thing. Especially nowadays, some monks like to live in meditation center. And those type of centers are run by lay people, so they don't have to do any work. Whereas monks who live in forest monasteries, there are very few lay people around, so they have to do a lot of maintenance work. So we become dark skin, or we develop more muscle. Okay. Now, when it comes to eating, another thing you should know is that monks are not allowed to eat with lay people from the same dish, the same bowl. A monk can only eat with another monk, share a dish, share a bowl with another monk who follows the same Dhamma Vinaya. So, we Theravada monks, we follow the Vinaya, we won't eat with the Mahayana monk. We won't sit on the same table and share the same dish and all that. That's why we like to bring our alms bowl, so that we can put food into our alms bowl. Then we don't have to share, eat with anybody, so we don't break the precept. Because if we eat with lay people, then we be like too friendly, too chummy with lay people, then there is no distance. When a monk associates too much with lay people, then he starts to behave like lay people. During the Buddha's time, there were some monks like that. They like to sit with a girl and joke and enjoy the same cup of tea or something, and play games, play chess and all that. The lay people, all this is not allowed in the Vinaya. Nowadays, in the propagation of the Dhamma, we have a lot of facility nowadays. For example, now I give the Dhamma talk. It is recorded in a recorder. So when I go back, luckily for me, I have an assistant monk who can put this into the computer. Old folks like me, I don't know how to use computer. A younger monk, they know how to use the computer. They can edit the talk, and then make it much clearer, and can burn it into CD. Then after that, we can reproduce. So same with video also. And then some people, they like the talk very much. Some people, they take the trouble to transcribe it. They listen, and then put it down in writing. At 1 or 2 lay supporters like that, they like a certain talk, and they will put it into writing. And that's a lot of work. You have to listen and write down, listen, write down. And then other lay people, they help to translate it into Chinese. Because like me, I only know English, so they translate the Chinese and can be put into book. And then for Dhamma propagation, we need funds also to print books, to burn CDs, etc. So some of these, sometimes like in our monastery, we only have 2 monks. So we need the help of other lay people to do some of this work. Another way lay people can support Sangha is to provide transport. For example, transport to go on alms round, because sometimes like in our place, the taman is not so near, and there in Perak, people are not used to giving food to monks. When I first came back from Thailand, 1987, I went to stay in the cave behind Simpang Polai. I went to Ipoh, look for a cave to stay in. After some time, I found a dark cave in Simpang Polai, behind Simpang Polai. Then I went to the market on Armstrong. Everybody stared at me as though I was a monkey in a zoo. They don't know how to give food, So I walked around and nobody gave me food. Keep walking, also nobody gives you food. So I saw some stalls selling kueh, cakes. So I thought, if I walk past them also, they're not going to give me. Must make my skin a bit thick. So I went to stand in front of the stall. Stand in front of the stall, also the lady didn't know how to give me. One customer had to tell her, hey, hoi di kokoi, pay di kokoi. And then only she gave me some kokoi. Then I walked to the next stall, I had to stand there. Then she gave me some kokoi. Then the first lady came back, wanted to give me 2 ringgit. I closed my arms bowl. I am not allowed to accept money. Closed my arms bowl. I said, don't accept money. She was very surprised. She thought all monks accept money. Then I went to the third stall. I got some kueh. Then I walked back to my cave. I passed the mee stall. Purposely walked a bit slow also. Passed the rice stall. Walked a bit slow also cannot get. And went back to the cave. Had to eat kokoi. Second day, I went arms round. Again, I had to stand in front of the kokoi stall. Then I got kokoi. And I ate kokoi second day. Third day, I thought, they should have some common sense. I don't need to stand there. I walk slowly past. And then they gave me kokoi. Third day also I did cocoa. Fourth day after cocoa. Fifth day after cocoa. Because sometimes we think that monks are vegetarian or should be vegetarian, right? So nasi lemak also tak boleh. So 5th day, 6th day, 7th day, 8th day, 9th day, 10th day I have to eat cocoa. Then some people pass the word around, so they thought I was a Thai monk, I look like Thai. So they came into my cave and started talking with me. Then I took the opportunity to tell them that we Theravada monks who bake for our food, we are not vegetarians. On the 11th day I got nasi lemak. So you see, people like that in Perak, they seldom see monks and arms around, they don't know how to give. Not like Penang. Penang, my father, my grandparents were all from Penang. So my father told me that when he was a small boy, these Thai monks used to go on arms around. And my grandmother used to put a kettle of tea outside the house. And these monks will walk by and they see the kettle of tea and they will pour and drink themselves. So in the north, Kedah and Penang, people are used to monks going on arms around. But in the south, we are not used to monks going on arms around. We don't know how to give. So, like in our place, the nearest town is Tamil. So, actually we haven't started arms around because the people there are not used to us. We intend to start very soon. So when we start arms round, we also cannot go every day. So like we go to Temo one day, and then go to Tapa another day, and then go to Bijo another day, and go to Kampa another day, go to Chendiang another day. So this also we need lay people to support us and drive us in the van to go and collect food, and also to follow us so that in case we get too much food, they can help us bring back. When I was staying in Penang Hill, I stayed in a cave on Penang Hill for 7 years alone. And every day I walk down 400 feet, walk down to Aitam. I walk to an old lady's house. But Penang people are very supportive. Every day I go to the old lady's house, big crowd of people are waiting for me. They give me so much food, I cannot bring up to my cave. And one of the young men would take his motorcycle, he'd take the food and go up the hill and give me all the food to choose. And the balance he will take it down and distribute. So you see, for this Armstrong also we need transport support. And then sometimes like a monk has to go for Dharma talks, also we need transport. And sometimes a monk has to go and see the doctor or a dentist, also we need the people around who can provide instant transport. And in our new monastery, because we have a lot of building work, sometimes we have to do certain things ourselves. So we also have to go to the hardware shops to buy certain tools for work. Another thing quite important for monks, because monks we only eat in the morning. At the most we have 2 meals, breakfast and lunch. And at night we have nothing, right? So the Buddha allowed certain allowances. For example, honey, various forms of sugar, and then butter or cheese. In the Thai tradition is cheese and butter. And then various types of oil, like cod liver oil, fish oil, or other types of oil like olive oil, coconut oil, and then ghee. So these allowances are quite important to a monk. Besides this, you have others like in the Thai tradition, you have tea and coffee. So, because we don't have a meal, we don't have dinner, these kind of supports are quite important. So if you realize this, for example, when you invite a monk to your center, then you should provide these things for a monk. So you got energy, and you use the Dhamma talk. So these are called allowances.